Hi, everyone. Good morning. Hope you're having a great day, great spring. We have an awesome topic today. I know everybody's talking about AI right now. Maybe everybody's getting a little burned out from talking about AI. But keep the lights on because we got a lot of really great things coming from Couchbase, meant to add to our unified developer platform. We're introducing AI services. It's currently right now in a private preview, but we hope to have it out in the next few months for GA. Um, and to get you all started, we brought back Mark Gamble, our Director of Product and Solutions Marketing, to talk about what's coming around here at Couchbase to help you build more powerful applications. So before we bring Mark on, a couple of reminders. Would love to hear where you're from, what you're up to in the chat. So please feel free to contribute there. The docs section has a couple of links for you. The link to our AI services page, a link to today's presentation. So you can take a look at that, take that away with you. And please feel free to ask questions at any time. So use the QA or add them to the chat. And Mark will probably address those closer to the end of the presentation today. But with that, thanks so much, Mark Gamble, for joining us. Great to see you. And let's get started.
Cool. Thanks, Suzanne. Really appreciate that great intro. And hi, guys. Mark here with Couchbase. I'm super excited today to be here talking about Capella AI Services. And as Suzanne said, AI is just a hot topic right now. And what we want to do is kind of show you how AI services and our data platform can help you with enriching your existing apps with powerful AI features, as well as help you build out those new innovations with agentic type of capabilities. So I'm going to be actually showing some product demos today to keep it fun. So stick around for the whole program, and we'll get right into it. Lots to cover. So we'll start rolling. So I usually, start with a customary set the stage, right? And I mean, I just said it, that AI is all the rage right now. And the current prevalence of Gen AI has really led to this seismic shift in how we all approach tasks, both large and small. And enterprise use is steadily increasing, in fact. As a proof point on AI usage in modern enterprises, I just Googled the term. And I found Business Wire quoting a study from earlier this year that said that nearly 60% of surveyed enterprise workers are using agentic apps today. And I initially thought, wow, that's really high. This is kind of new, and they're really challenging to build. But it turns out that the folks who got it right are starting to make this agentic AI application experience really prevalent in our everyday kind of working. And I thought that number was high, 60%, until I really started taking stock of my own gradually growing use of AI, which I never realized I'm starting to do more and more. I don't use AI as a point of pride to write my blogs, right? Those are all written by just me, OI, organic intelligence. But even so, AI is still creeping into my process when I do my writing. It all started with Google Docs autocomplete, for sentence, which it seems eerily accurate to what I was just about to type. So it's like, okay, that was time saving, right? A few keystrokes. And then I started noticing that I can, when I do a search in like Bing, for example, or Google, we're getting AI assisted search, right? So search results are becoming faster and more accurate. And then Zoom came out with this cool meeting summarization, right? Where it instantly creates meeting notes and even knows how to attribute which comments were from which speaker. And, this is stuff that it's not brand new in of itself, but it used to require specialized, expensive software just a short while ago. And now it's free and so prevalent, we don't even realize we're using it anymore. And that's really kind of the key. So agentic apps are arguably here to stay, for some of these benefits. That 60% of folks that are using AI said that the automation of tedious tasks, reduced time spent searching for information, and quick meeting summarization were the top three benefits that they found. So it really kind of drove the point home for my own growing use of agentic AI-powered applications. And Gen AI-based applications are important because of their ability to engage like a person, right? The best ones are hyper-personalized and feel like interacting with a friend or trusted advisor. They're in context. They present relevant options. They're driven by trustworthy data for accuracy, and they operate in real time and ideally work everywhere, right? With or without internet. And the goals actually here are pretty simple, but achieving them comes with some significant challenges that can be really hard to overcome unless you have the right database, right? So that's where we kind of dive in now to Couchbase. So Couchbase is a database platform, database and AI platform. So at the topmost level, Couchbase is a cloud-native NoSQL database that's used to power gigantic applications. If I asked for a show of hands, how many folks are using LinkedIn? Probably everybody's hand goes up. You're using Couchbase every time you use LinkedIn, right? They're essentially betting their user experience on Couchbase, and that's why it's always so reliable and so fast. PepsiCo, Tesco, Comcast, Amadeus, United Airlines, the list goes on of big household names who use us to power their critical applications. And that's because Couchbase is so versatile and powerful. It's a combination of database capabilities, which is why we call it multi-purpose. So first, it's an in-memory key value store for hyper-fast responsiveness. And to this, you combine the distributed storage of JSON document-based data for scale. And that also brings development flexibility, right? And not only that, but JSON is the sort of best data format for AI because it can accommodate structured, unstructured, free-form text, all of that different kind of data that AI needs. But we didn't stop there, right? This multi-purpose notion means that we add on other data access patterns. So we have vector search, which is key to our AI support. And we have full text search, geospatial search, all built in as well. We provide eventing. We provide columnar analytics. We're container friendly. And we have offline mobile sync, embeddable database for mobile and edge applications. So these, again, are all data access patterns that our customers no longer have to bolt together from a bunch of different technologies, right? They get it from one platform. And Couchbase supports relational constructs as well, like SQL queries and ACID transactions. And these are things that you don't typically find with a document database. But we wanted to make sure that we adhere to these relational constructs so developers can use their existing SQL skills and their existing SQL statements, even though it's a JSON database. So customers across the bottom here, we see deployment options. So customers can deploy and use Capella, and that's our hosted and managed database as a service. Or they can manage and deploy their own Couchbase deployments in the cloud, on-prem, even on device, as I mentioned earlier. So this sort of, in a nutshell, represents Couchbase. And adding to that multi-purpose capability, of different types of data access patterns, we recognize that everybody's going to AI. So we wanted to make that part of the package with Couchbase Capella. So we recently launched Capella AI Services, as Suzanne mentioned, into private preview. But when you combine this notion, of the broader capabilities of Couchbase and these AI capabilities, that brings together operational data processing, columnar analytics, and streamlined workflows to prep data for and help developers build AI agents and agentic applications. And that's going to be the crux of the rest of the presentation. So the services here include a model service, an unstructured data service, a data vectorization service, AI function service, and then on top sits the agent catalog. And that's a framework and methodology for developing agentic applications faster and more efficiently. So the services are all encapsulated within your Couchbase Capella VPC. And this also applies to hosted models. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But what that means is that you can actually co-locate your AI with the data and analytics that feed it. So this brings advantages in speed and governance and data privacy. And we also recently announced our partnership with NVIDIA. And this means that customers can now deploy NVIDIA NeMo models via Capella on NVIDIA NIM microservices. And that's a set of microservices and inference platform that are designed and run on NVIDIA for maximum horsepower. So that gives you the horsepower as well as just a giant array of different models to leverage for your AI agentic apps. So I've been saying agentic app and AI powered app. So what do we mean when we're actually talking about these kind of things? So let's take a look at a representative example, a travel coordinator app that utilizes agents. So app users today, and if we can go full screen, Suzanne, that'd be great. So app users today in the age of AI have really come to expect this kind of hyper personal experience that feels like interacting with a friend or trusted advisor. Especially when they're making things like complex travel arrangements, right? Planning the perfect trip for family should be really frictionless and easy. So a conversational app like this is so engaging because it interacts with us like it's a real person. It's in context, it presents relevant options based on my preferences and attributes. It's media rich and immersive. It doesn't continuously ask me for acknowledgement because it already knows what I like, right? It presents options instantly from an array of different disparate data sources. And it's seamlessly integrated with services and can perform tasks on our behalf, right? Those are the agents behind the scenes. And it's driven by trustworthy data so we know that it's accurate. And it's secure so we know it won't mishandle sensitive information. And it operates in real time, right? Works in everywhere with or without internet. So this type of experience is really fantastic for users because it provides real value. But developing an app that delivers on these expectations can actually be kind of challenging, right? Especially because the AI development landscape is so vast and complex, and it's only growing. It's kind of the Wild West out there, right? Things are happening really fast. So when we consider all of the things that go into creating a conversational application, a Gen AI, agentic app, like that travel coordinator, it can really become apparent just how planning it, just even the planning can be very detail oriented and a little bit daunting. So here's a basic flow of some important things that need to happen for any LLM based agentic RAG application. So what we're looking at essentially is, again, that sort of flow of activities, but we see the Capella database as a service here, sort of centrally located, if you will, in that flow. So you have to consider, first of all, preparing your data for AI. And so what that means is you have to vectorize it so that AI models can actually understand it. If it is not vectorized, you're going to have a hard time working with your LLMs using unvectorized data. You also have to consider unstructured data sources from outside your operational applications, like PDFs or social media, right? These are rich gold mines of information that can inform your applications with valuable information for recommendations and suggestions. And you also have to consider AI models, right? But not just which ones to use. That's very important, of course, but where they're located, right? Do you use publicly available cloud models like OpenAI? These are tremendously powerful and widely used resources, but they're out of your control. And so they present issues with governance and security and privacy and latency. How do you control all of those? And then for using AI at scale, how do you easily leverage LLMs to do things they're really good at, like determining entities and sentiment, or performing classification or summarization or translation, or even masking of data in applications. Of course, you can do that on a one-by-one basis with prompts for an LLM, but how do you do it against like millions of records? Let's say millions of hotel reviews and ratings. So that's what the AI functions are designed to do. And agentic apps, those parcel out tasks as granular prompts and tools to make AI faster. But as you amass resources for agentic workflows and as you capture the threads and conversations of that engagement, it can become very quickly cumbersome and complex to manage and trace, right? All of those different attributes of prompts and tools that make up an agentic application. So how can you best manage and reuse those critical agent building blocks that can inflate to thousands of resources? And how do you easily go back and trace things like hallucinations? So that's what the agent catalog is in fact designed to help you do. It's designed to make it easy to efficiently manage these assets and trace those kind of things. So of course, all of these requirements can be achieved today, but it isn't easy, right? And typically involves a complex architecture of loosely interconnected technologies that can be really hard to manage, can be inefficient, and wholly unrepeatable, right? So Capella AI Services tries to get around that, right? By providing a comprehensive ecosystem to do all of these things easily within a single powerful database platform. So let's kind of start at the beginning. I talked about, our operational data, let's say, is in Capella, our database as a service, but we need to vectorize it first because we want to use it with our AI travel coordinator app. And let's say we want to use our operational data on hotels, amenities, and points of interest from our travel database to power those recommendations and offers. So in order to do this, we have to vectorize the data so we can use it for semantic search and RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, with our LLM. So the kind of old way to do that is we'd wire up a complex pipeline using a separate vector database and disparate technologies, export data, put it in the vector database, create redundant copies. All of that really goes away with the vectorization service. We can vectorize our data in place. So this will be the first of our demonstrations. We'll show you exactly what that looks like in the vectorization service. So here we are in Couchbase Capella, and we're currently looking at my travel sample database, and I have my hotels collection. We'll open up one of those documents. You can see the data, the granular data on a given hotel has lots of information, right? Especially things like reviews and ratings and feedback and description. But the thing it doesn't have are vectors, right? So that's something I have to solve. Now, do I have to actually export this data up to some other technology? Well, no. AI Services says we're going to vectorize this right in place. It's a 3-step process to set up this workflow. So first, we'll do the vectorize workflow, and then we'll choose where that data that we want to vectorize is. And of course, it's in my travel sample database, and specifically in my hotels collection. So next we can say, what do we want to vectorize? All fields? Nah, I'm just going to grab the ones that are going to make the most sense for my application: title, address, city, and reviews. And then next we'll choose our embedding model. We can, in this case, use an externalized model. I'll use OpenAI, and we'll choose that model. Anytime you input your OpenAI key, it's securely saved for quick, efficient reuse. And we're almost done. Now we give the brand new vector field a name. That's where we want to store those vectors, and then an index name. So we're basically done. Very simple, very easy, and just a few mouse clicks. We're now deploying that workflow, and it's going to go out and actually vectorize all of the data. And because it's a workflow that's running, any new data that comes into the database will automatically be vectorized as well. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go back into that exact same collection, in fact, the same document where we saw that hotel, and of course, all the same information. But as we scroll to the bottom, there we see those vectors. This means that it's now ready for AI. We can start to use it for RAG and semantic search. In fact, that's exactly what I did. I plugged it into our sample app for semantic search and ran a search on something that's only in my operational database. And the LLM made perfect recommendations based on that. So again, like the key here is that we didn't have to move anything. It's not something that you couldn't do before, but we sure did it with a lot less elbow grease, as they say, just a few mouse clicks, and it was all vectorized in place. So now let's move on to kind of the next area, and that's unstructured information. Let's say our AI travel coordinator app needs to present, compelling offers and make accurate recommendations based on, the actual destination. So wouldn't it be great to use unstructured data like PDF travel guides, which can inform semantic searches and LLM suggestions? But how do you easily prepare unstructured sources like a PDF document for RAG or semantic search with your LLM? It's not part of my operational data footprint. So once again, instead of wiring up this complex pipeline and using separate databases and disparate services, I'm going to use the unstructured data service in Capella. So here we'll start a little bit different. I'm in AWS S3. And I'm going to open up a document that's in my S3 repo. And here I can see we have a PDF document on the Couch Hotel's upcoming amenities and events. This is going to be great stuff to feed my travel app. For context, they can make really informed recommendations. But it's not in my operational data footprint. In fact, if I take a look at my operational data in Capella, here I've set up an empty bucket. There's nothing in it. But that's going to be the container for this unstructured information. So again, it's just a push button affair within AI services. 4 simple steps to create a workflow to acquire that unstructured information. So first, we'll say I want to access that in my S3 bucket. Which bucket do we have set up here? And I'm going to go straight to my travel PDFs bucket we saw a minute ago. Now we can pre-process. I just want the first 2 pages of these documents, not all of them. And I'm going to exclude the footer information. Don't need to chunk that out. And then how do we actually want to select this? We can specify to chunk it out by sentence or paragraph. I'm just going to choose sentence. And now which model do we want to use? Again, I'll just use the OpenAI external model. Choose that model and then use that saved key, which makes everything so much more faster and convenient. So at this point, we're almost done. Now we choose where we want to put that, chunked and vectorized information coming from those PDFs. So I'm going to have it just put it right into that empty bucket on Capella that I showed you earlier. And we'll give it a field name. The index is also created automatically. Give that a name. And at any time, we can review that very basic workflow. And I'm going to go ahead and build it out. So the nice thing here is that while this workflow is running, any new documents that are put in that S3 folder are going to be automatically picked up, acquired, chunked, vectorized, and put into our operational database. So you can probably see where this is going. I'm going to go now back into Capella. And then in that empty bucket, we can now see it's chock full of information coming from the PDFs in that folder. And here we can see the elements that have been extracted. But not only that, the textual elements extracted and also vectorized. So once again, 100% ready for use with our Gen AI-based application. So I hope you agree that this is pretty easy and straightforward. The nice thing is that I'm a marketer, not an AI practitioner. I shouldn't admit that doing a webinar on the topic, but it really opened my eyes because I was able to actually build out the framework for an agentic application using Capella. I'm not a programmer, didn't have to be, right? It's just click a push button affair. So next, I talked about models being very important. Not only the models that you choose, but also where they're located. So the Capella model service is a co-located notion here, right? Where we can actually take a model and co-locate it directly in the same VPC running right alongside the data that feeds it. And this speeds up AI processing because data and model are co-located. And it also addresses data privacy risk by ensuring that data never leaves the customer's VPC. You can feed that LLM, if it's hosted in your own VPC, any data you want without risk of exposing sensitive information. And it also, this co-hosting notion gives you more control overall than a general purpose cloud LLM. It has built-in caching and guardrails, keyword filters. You can make sure that LLM always says the most appropriate thing and will not say things that it shouldn't be saying when it engages with the user. So let's take a look what the model service looks like. So in this case, I'm going to choose to deploy a brand new model, and I want to co-locate it. And again, evidence here of our new partnership with NVIDIA. You can choose from a host of different NVIDIA NeMo models, again, that will be running on NVIDIA NIM. There's also a few open source models available, and we'll keep adding to those. And now, being NVIDIA, we can take advantage of their optimizations and quantization to make sure that it runs as fast and accurately as possible and efficiently as possible. We can also enter dimensions. We can take advantage of guardrails for moderated content with content safety and prompt guards, right? All built in. Then, of course, we can choose kind of the level of compute that we want to take advantage of. And we allow for flexibility. You can expand or decrease at any time you need. Additional value add capabilities, semantic caching, for example. And this allows you to cache and reuse responses to semantically similar prompts, a great efficiency there. And batching, this allows you to make API calls in batch for efficiency and cost savings. And you can also use keyword filtering, filter out things like competitors, mentions, things like that. So once we deploy it, it's running now as part of our Capella VPC, right next to the data. And it has an API endpoint that's callable just like any other LLM. And in fact, I wanted to test those guardrails. So I went ahead and sent a prompt using Postman. This is my API client, essentially way to test these APIs. So notice I sent it something that's guardrailed. Give me guidance on how to sell counterfeit products. And the guardrails kicked right in. I can't provide guidance on how to sell that. Can I help you with something else? So it was a really nice way to see those guardrails, test them instantly once we set them up. And our engineering has made, in fact, a Postman collection of ways to test those various value add features when you deploy the model. So again, super easy to get that model service there. Anytime you're using that co-located model, you're getting the utmost in data privacy, low latency, and security. So this is a really big feature for us. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Let's say we want to leverage LLMs for things that it's really good at, right? Sentiment analysis and summarization, language translation, entity identification and extraction, classification, any of these things that they're so good at. But again, to do it across a large volume of data at once, like tens of thousands of hotel or event reviews. So instead of wiring up a complex pipeline of data through a machine learning engine, AI functions and Capella AI Services allow customers to use plain old SQL, garden variety SQL, to invoke LLMs directly when working with data stored on Capella. So this way they can call the LLM and feed it the data it needs to evaluate in a single compact SQL statement. Let me show you what that looks like. So here, the AI functions are built on top of our LLM model. So whenever you deploy an LLM as a hosted model, you'll automatically get those functions. So I've already deployed one moments ago, so I'm going to actually try our sample query now. And we just hit sample query. Notice here I have a SQL query that is in fact going out and evaluating the sentiment and summarizing thousands and thousands of different reviews all at once. But it doesn't stop there. Here with plain SQL, we can do things like classification. We can use plain SQL to do grammar correction, just calling the function. We can also use it to generate text, just like we would do automatically with a given prompt. We can do this at scale with SQL. We can also do entity identification and masking. This can be for redaction, for example. And then, of course, translation. If we want to do very quick translation, we're here translating our English to Spanish. And the function list actually is even larger than that. But I'm sure you get the point here that it's very, very easy to simply call these functions against massive amounts of data, all through a simple SQL statement. All right, now let's kind of end up on the agent catalog, because this is where we take advantage of all of those previous capabilities in a framework. So, agentic apps use AI to parcel out tasks as granular prompts and tools that can work in parallel, right? So agentic development is the best way to produce apps that meet the speed and accuracy required for success. But as prompts and tools grow in number, and as you start to store threads and conversations over time with thousands of engagements and tens of thousands of users, how can you develop and best manage and reuse these building blocks, as well as trace things like hallucinations in specific threads? So this is what the agent catalog is in fact designed to help with. So again, we'll take a quick look. The Capella agent catalog is actually an SDK and methodology that accelerates agentic application development. It's a centralized repository for tools, metadata, prompts, and audit information to manage LLM flow, traceability, and governance. So the catalog resources and code and samples and documentation are all provided as a GitHub repo. And the repo contains reference examples that use the catalog framework, including a recommendation system example where we can see the prompt and tool catalogs here. And then we can see, for example, the assembly of task-specific prompts and task-specific tools that are created for this little sample recommendation system. So it shows you exactly the methodology of how to use it. So to see the catalog in action, we actually provide a sample travel agent example. It's a reference app that uses the agent catalog framework. And once you deploy this, it's pre-built. Once you deploy it and connect it to Capella, the demo app shows how prompts are processed behind the scenes. So I'll actually put in a quick prompt. We run it. And then when I get the response, we can also see exactly what was the agent doing. And here we can see the plan and the tools that it's called and the prompts and the responses that are all happening behind the scenes to carry out the agent tasks based on my prompt. And when we use Capella on the back end, that's where the catalog assets and activities, all the metadata, is stored on Capella. And that makes it very easily managed and searchable and traceable. So in fact, I went in just for fun and brought up the raw log of that very first prompt to the agent. Here we can see that it's logged so that we can go back and check any part of that conversation. And in fact, we can see all the individual catalog prompts here also vectorized and the metadata stored, as well as our tools catalog, similarly with all of the assets vectorized and stored. So the benefit here of having this in a database means that you can actually utilize AI services here to search for any tool or prompt. Here we can see a given tool, and we can also use it for debugging any part of the process. So here I'm going to go into one of our active sessions, and we get a very nice play-by-play here of exactly what happened between these agentic application communication on the back end. So that's what we mean when we say it makes it a lot easier to go back, maintain, as well as trace any problems. And that's going to, again, as these agentic apps become more and more complex, this is going to be a huge boon for developers to keep their applications working at their absolute most accurate and utmost speed. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. I had a great time, love showing this stuff. With AI services, Capella brings together that, operational data processing, columnar analytics, and streamlined workflow to prep data for and help you build and develop AI agents and agentic applications more quickly and easily. So we help remove the risk of using open models with that co-located hosting, and we provide the speed and scale required for AI to perform at its peak. But don't take my word for it. You can see for yourself. Take advantage of our trial account. Sign up for our private preview. I said trial, it's not a trial. In fact, this is a high touch preview. So contrary to a trial, we don't just sort of toss software over the fence and say, have fun. This is a high touch preview run by our product managers and engineering because they want to make you successful. And in doing so, we learn how to improve the product. So it's a really win-win partnership. Sign up for consideration today. All right, Suzanne, I think we are at a point where hopefully I was sharing that through that whole thing.
You were indeed. I saw all of,
Great.
yeah, that was a great walkthrough. Thank you so much, Mark. It doesn't look like we have too many questions, but we did leave some information in the doc section for you. Of course, you can always reach out to our team and ask questions as they come up. We know that this AI journey is it's coming for everyone, and everybody I think is just trying to form the questions and see where it's going to go next, right? So we're all in this kind of stage of discovery together. But you know, we're here and we're building for you and for your developers, you know, as we go into this new AI world. So again, if you have questions, would love to hear those. Reach out to us. Let us know what you're building. We would love to hear about what is being built out there. You know, beyond the chat bot is something that we've been talking about a lot. You know, beyond chatbots, what are we doing? What are we thinking about? What's really going to help your customers? You know, be in tune and know what's going on in your business, what's going to help them on a daily basis. So would love to hear from you. I want to thank Mark so much again for this awesome overview of AI services. And we hope to see you. We have a webcast coming up actually. Oh yeah, we just announced Edge Server.
Edge Server coming up on March 26th, I believe.
Yeah, Edge Server. So at the end of the month, we're going to talk about that. If you're looking at adding again to your capabilities, we just launched it next week, so it'll be hot off the press. And Mark's going to be talking about that at our next webcast at the end of the month. So please join us, and we will see you again really soon. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.